Okay, welcome to Dive Beyond Sport. Hannah, Scott, thank you so much for joining us. Super excited for this episode. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys. Always a pleasure.
So first, we like to start these just better coming from your words. If you could give us your journey up until this point, kind of like your journey elevator life pitch, just to give some context to the listeners.
Yeah. Okay. So my name's Hannah. I'm from Northern Ireland. I'm 26 years old. I'm a rower. I'm an Olympic rower. I've been to 2 Olympic Games, Tokyo when I was 21, and then recently Paris, where I feel like so far I've had my probably pinnacle so far in my career is winning Olympic gold in Paris in the women's quadruple scull. And I think going back from that, I started rowing when I was 12 in a little small town in Northern Ireland. Rowed underneath a Chinese takeaway growing up. It was very modest, very humble. Grew up in a local town, rowed, not really thinking much would come of it. And when I was 17, got recruited to go to the US for university. So went out to Princeton, studied at Princeton for 4 years. And that led me into Tokyo, where I actually competed in that Olympic year with the COVID year, having also completed my senior year at Princeton, and balancing academics and sport, which I do think was quite a pivotal part of my career, because then post that I've started to get more into the professional side of it, started to enjoy it more and started to seek the balance and the identity I think we all search for when we're professional athletes, because I think it can be quite complex. And yeah, I think some of the highlights in my career have been European champion in the women's quadruple scull, world champion in the women's quadruple scull, and Olympic champion in the women's quadruple scull. So me and 3 other girls, I'm good. For some reason, the 4 people in a boat seems to be working well for me at the minute. And yeah, apart from that, everything else has been a journey, and I've had a lot of lessons along the way that I'm sure we can discuss. So that's a brief summary.
That's amazing. And there are some incredible honours that you've achieved in your own career. And plus the whole going to Princeton and competing at the highest level, going to the Olympics in the same year as well. That's unbelievable, because that's such a high level university. But coming from the small town in Northern Ireland that you spoke about, eventually to this big stage, is quite a transition from one to the next. But also the history that you created for Northern Ireland.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In terms of winning an Olympic gold medal, could you talk a little bit around that, because that is a phenomenal achievement.
Like, yeah, I think it's not something I want to mention, I guess, but I guess it's where, for people that don't know about Northern Ireland, the last time we won a gold medal at the Olympics was Mary Peters in 1972. Yeah, so it was over 50 years we'd gone without any Olympic golds coming into Northern Ireland, and I grew up knowing that. And then in Paris, we were lucky enough to win, myself and Daniel, Reese and Jack. So there's 4 gold medals came back for Northern Ireland in the Paris Games, which was the first we've had in, like I said, over 50 years. And then I was the first woman since Mary. And I think having grown up in Northern Ireland and always having that awareness that Mary Peters was the last person to win one, this is where they'll win in the Olympic gold medal was always a dream for me. And I never really was quite sure if I was going to ever do it, but it was something that I aspired towards, and I just wanted to see if it could be possible and just see how far I could get. And that was kind of where I was inspired watching London 2012. And then from that point forward, I've just been on the journey, and thankfully and luckily I can say that I've been lucky enough to experience it. And that just being from Northern Ireland and being from where I'm from in the world, there's so many layers to that, but we can get into that. But I feel really proud in my journey with that so far. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's something that I can connect to, because in terms of going on to represent Jamaica, which I did at the Olympics,
yes,
I became the first Jamaican Olympic diver in 44 years at the time, which was in Rio. So wow. The last Jamaican diver competed at the same games, I guess, as Mary Peters in 1972, which is unbelievable. And
yeah,
that
is amazing.
It is such a standout thing, because when I think it's easy to get caught up in the little bubble that we all live in as an athlete when, other people are achieving amazing things and your achievements actually sometimes feel less. But
I think you forget, and I think you forget context with them. Yeah. I know what you're saying with like
what I did
with history.
Exactly. And what I did and what you did, like we were the first in a very, very, very long time, which in the context of the entire world is unbelievable. And it's actually amazing. So I think you should embrace that even more if you say you don't talk about it too much.
Well, yeah, it's just like, I think being Northern Irish, they always growing up, it was like, don't be too cocky. Don't be too confident. And I think that's been kind of bred into me from a young age. And that's kind of maybe in my mindset a little bit of like always having to be the hardest working and making sure you've ticked every box. And that's kind of where I find myself even now with the success still struggling to almost not accept it, but just rest on it because I'm still striving. I'm still going towards more. And that's kind of always been in my mindset growing up is like, I think coming from where I come from, I was always like, okay, I might not be the most talented, but maybe I can work the hardest and that'll get me somewhere. And that's kind of maybe where it comes from a little bit is just trying to manage that. And I feel like the more you rest on your success, I feel like when I look back on my career and when it's completely over, I'll be definitely probably reflecting fondly and wishing I lapped it up more. But yeah, you know what I mean? It's just one of those complicated things when you're in sport, you're always like second guessing everything and you're always trying to look for more.
Well, there's a few things to that, Hannah. I mean, I totally agree, and obviously on this podcast as well, we've had I think a lot of the messaging from a lot of people is always like, like if you had one thing to say to your younger self or like one word piece of advice for like listeners, like make the most of it, enjoy the journey, like. So there's definitely some wisdom in that, but then also at the same time, I also was listening to you then. Thinking, this is great because you've had the ultimate level of success, but you're still not taking it for granted. I mean, no. I don't get the impression from your character so far that, you're in a really, difficult time in terms of like your sporting journey. I mean, obviously,
no. I've been there.
Yeah.
But not at the minute, yeah. I agree, yeah.
And then you're talking about hard work. Because that was a quote I read about you, and you basically brought it up now, like hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. That's amazing. I really connect with that. I feel like that speaks to my journey in a lot of ways as well. There was a lot of people who probably should have done much better than I did, but it was just me keeping going. And it's so funny that you actually now attribute that attitude to your roots, your Northern Irish roots. I mean, are there any other things that you attribute that to? Is that your coaching, but do you think it's really born out of your?
I think background? I had this realization when I was a junior. So growing up in this local town, like I had this coach, and his name was Jeff, and I think I basically put a lot of my success on him because from a young age he was never like. Some coaches take a very positive approach, and he was never negative, but he was always just, you got to work hard. And that was bred in us from a young age. And this small rowing club, band rowing club that I was part of, we've had 2 silver medals, a bronze medal from London 2012 in rowing, and then myself, gold in Paris. And I was inspired by London 2012. So I was inspired by the guys that came from the club. And it's a club of like 50, 60 members. It's tiny. And like I said, it's underneath a Chinese restaurant. Like it's below that, like the boats live there. So always growing up with that, I didn't realize kind of what I was getting myself into. And then when I started to do at Irish level, I was part of the Irish Championships and would start to be a bit successful there. We started to do competitions in England, and that's where my eyes opened to what rowing was as a sport. And kind of maybe in a way, I didn't realize rowing was not an elite sport, but just kind of the money that was in it in England versus Ireland. And the only thing I could think of that I could do better was I can just work harder because I don't have the best boat. I don't have the best facilities. I don't have the best school, but all I can do is work hard. And that in a way was successful for me throughout my later years when I was maybe 17, 18. And I go back to that and I'm like, you can't outwork hard work. And that probably my lesson in life, that like you can still do it no matter where you come from. And that's why I feel really strongly about that now, even in a sport like rowing, where I think in England it can maybe have a different perspective to other places in the world. Like I didn't have that perspective of it being an elitist sport growing up. It was just anyone and everyone joined. And actually in Northern Ireland, coming from different communities of Protestant and Catholic backgrounds, it was a very cross-community driven sport. It was a sport for everyone, which in England, I feel like because of maybe private schools and stuff, it's been different. I think there's a bit more of like, how do I say it? Like, it is more elitist, especially with the Oxford, Cambridge boat race and things like that. And that's just not how I grew up with the sport. And yeah, because of that, the hard work aspect has like been bred into me from a young age. Because that's all my coach would say. He'd be like, you can work harder. And I'd be like, okay, yeah.
It is also kind of the most annoying thing a coach can say, like, just try harder, just do better, just do more. All of that is hard. He
would drive me insane with it. And like, I hate being that person. I'd be like, work hard. But it was the thing in the end that I've always come back to. But yeah, I agree. It is so annoying to hear. It's not my favorite quote, but it is something that I do believe in.
Everything that you say about, I guess, the sport of rowing is probably my perception on it as well, in the fact that being from England, it is a more elitist sport, because you go to a certain university and that gives you an advantage of being good in a particular sport.
And even getting into that university, I completely agree.
Yes.
It's hard. Yeah.
Exactly. And I see that with different sports around the world and for different reasons. For example, again, with my context in Jamaica, aquatics is actually seen as an elitist sport for those that can afford to do it. Whereas everyone just runs, everyone does track. And that's why they have so many great track athletes, because it's so bred into the culture there. But going back to your context, in Northern Ireland, you spoke about the Protestant and Catholic communities and the divide that creates within a very small nation. But rowing is there as, it kind of bridges all the gaps.
Yep.
And you forget about that division, which is really amazing. Being in that, and you mentioned you represented Ireland youth level, or you were part of Irish?
As a junior when I was younger. I represented Ireland.
Sure. Yeah. And then you went on to represent Team GB. Was there any kind of difficulty for you in making that decision, and how did that kind of come about? What did you have to go through to find that path?
I've recently spoken about this for the first time on social media, because I think I've reached a point where I've thought about this every day of my life for years and years and years, probably my whole life, about what country I represent and what flag I wear. And it's something that, as an athlete from Northern Ireland and a person from Northern Ireland, I don't think a lot of people really understand. And yes, trying to, like, for me, sport was all about not having political ties or religious ties. It was just meant to be that binding, united thing that people could experience together, make friendships and just enjoy. But sadly, when you get to the top level of sport, you have to pick a country, and that becomes politically charged again. And for me, like I said, I represented Ireland as a junior, and then I went to the States, and the relationship just basically meant that at that time GB could support me better. So then I rowed for GB, and then wearing the Union Jack and coming from Northern Ireland, like, I experienced things growing up where when I'd come back as an under 23 from the World Championships, on the way home, so because I was representing GB at the time, we'd fly back to England, and then I'd get a connecting flight back to Ireland, back to Belfast. And I would be conscious on, like, not want to disrespect people wearing Union Jacks. So I would actually take my kit off on the plane and put my normal clothes on when I arrived home. And not because I was ashamed. I was proud of my sport. I'm really proud of my community and everything. But I was just very wary about just upsetting the wrong person. And I feel like sometimes when you see flags in Northern Ireland, it can be very politically charged, especially you go through a certain area and it's either got tricolours or it's got Union Jacks, and you just have to go to one or the other and you'll see that. So I was always aware that I didn't want to project the wrong thing or just upset someone that maybe didn't want that political chargedness in their day or on the plane. So yeah, I battled that a lot growing up, and I've recently, like I said, just started to speak about it as I'm aware I'm representing Northern Ireland, and I basically wanted to say that well, just because I'm wearing a Union Jack doesn't mean I'm siding with one side or the other. I'm representing my whole community where I'm from, and that means everyone, because actually I had a very cross community experience growing up, and I was at a Protestant school, but I actually ended up studying at a Catholic school because I really wanted to study economics, and that meant I had like friends from both schools and like friends from the rowing club where everyone came from a different school. And that's why I strongly believe that sport in Northern Ireland is the one thing that does unite people, because the schooling system is still quite separated. And the Good Friday Agreement happened, but it didn't, the schools never collaborated. It was still quite Protestant and Catholic schools. And sport and club sport is the only thing that connects us in communities. And that is rowing. And like I said, Rowing Ireland are doing well. Team GB are doing well. And it doesn't, even in Northern Ireland, you can tell by sport what religion you are. But rowing is the only one where both Catholics and Protestants do it. So it's pretty cool. And other religions as well, obviously. But it's the divide and more being specific to.
Yeah, but it's amazing how sport can bring people together like that. And again, coming back to my context, I see that in the Caribbean. I see that in Jamaica and Barbados. They're the two nations that I had to choose between. My dad's from Jamaica, my mum's from Barbados, and I felt like I was basically choosing between my two families when it came to the point of deciding which nation I was to represent, which was hard.
I know, and they talk about pride and how proud you are to represent like your country and your home, and you're kind of asking yourself the question, which one is my home? And it shouldn't be that question. It shouldn't be that deep. It should just be, I'm doing this to represent everyone where I'm from. But what do you do when your family, in your example, or my community, are split?
Exactly. But also at the same time, once I made my decision, the Bayesian side of my family were extremely supportive, but also you do see the support of just the whole Caribbean for each nation. Like when someone from the Caribbean does well, no matter which nation they're from, the whole Caribbean gets around them. So for example, when Julian Alfred won her 100 meter and 200 meter gold in Paris, the whole Caribbean got around her. And I mean, Jamaica were trying to create links and try and take credit for the gold medal. And I think she spent some time training in Jamaica, and they'll do that. But ultimately, it's all about the support and about backing, the other nations. And that's what the kind of community brings. And that sounds like exactly what you're saying in Northern Ireland as well, which is fantastic. I love the power of sport for that reason.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I don't think a lot of people said to me when I posted about it for the first time, who are from England, they're like, I've never thought about it like that. I've never thought that when you're wearing a Union Jack every day, that's what you think about. And I'm like, yeah, it feels like a choice for me, which I don't even, I don't like the idea that it's a choice, like it, because you feel like then you're going to like choose the wrong one almost. But yeah, it's something that I feel like people with, especially maybe just in Team GB, you forget people from Northern Ireland. There's that context there, and it's not just simple. It's very complicated, and I'm always trying to do what's right for the community because I'm so proud of it, and I love Northern Ireland, and I love being from there. I'm so proud of that and my home that I just want to do the right thing, and that's hard when you're trying to balance that with sport. And yeah.
Well, but thank you for talking on this with us, because I wasn't exactly sure where you would necessarily be at with this kind of conversation and also again, even you talked about people responding to your post and not realizing obviously what that would have been like from your side. And I'll be honest, even just from my side, completely ignorantly, despite being born in England, and I should be far more familiar with this, but I didn't even realize that that the Good Friday Agreement actually gave them the option of choice between you could represent Ireland or Great Britain.
Yeah, everyone in Northern Ireland can hold two passports. So when I go through passport control, I can pick and choose. So if I got European or Union or UK, it's great.
Lucky you with the EU thing right now.
Yes.
I travel with the team, and sometimes I'm like, see you later, guys. And I just go off. It's the only perk. Well, it's not the only perk, but you know what I mean? It's like, I hold two passports. I hold my Irish and my UK passport.
But it just really showed me like, wow, yeah, this is something that and particularly probably for, kind of our generation and younger who, kind of, I think I think it's a really amazing thing to be talking about, because I agree with what you're saying. It's just it's not something I was familiar with, and you know, for you to be carrying that kind of
I know, and
weight.
it's not. I feel like people get scared around the topic because they think it's heavy, and honestly, a lot of people don't know a lot about it, and I totally understand that, because the only reason I know is I was born in it. And I think that a lot of people say to me, they're like, "Oh, Hannah, I actually don't know a lot about the troubles," and I'm like, totally understand. Like, I just grew up in it, so I understand. And I don't expect people to know. I'm not like banging that drum about like, you should know about this. I don't feel like that at all. I just feel like it's nice to have an awareness that it's a bit more complicated when you're from Northern Ireland. That's what people really need to know. It doesn't mean that we're not proud, and it doesn't mean that it's a disadvantage. It's just a thing. And I try to say it in a positive way. It's not meant to be like a look where I've come from. It's not about that. I'm like trying to breathe the positivity with it, that I love home. And I think it's, like I said, made me the person I am today. And it's with all the like post-Olympic celebrations, like the support I felt, like you kind of said, Jonah, from like, just like for me coming from Northern Ireland, from the whole community, I've never had anything like it after the Olympics, because I watched London 2012 and I watched the Olympians come back to Korea, where I'm from, and I was standing in the crowd going, wow, like something special can be done in this town, and it's here at this rowing club. And then to have the full circle moment and have the same thing happen to me after Paris and come back to the rowing club and have thousands of people come out on the streets and like have a full Olympic Day celebration in the town. I've never seen Korean High Street so busy. It's never busy. And they were there for me because of this Olympic medal. It was insane. And it took me a long time to process it because I couldn't quite wrap my head around it. And I just felt the love of the whole community. And for me, it was so, so special because I know the complexity and what's behind that. And I was like, wow, despite me wearing a Union Jack the whole time, people are showing up for me today because they're proud of this achievement. And that was the bit that just overrided, because I understand this. I understand everyone showing up to this. It's really meant something to me.
Just had goosebumps that entire time you were speaking. Oh my God.
It was probably one of the best days of my life. Mary Peters came. She surprised me.
Oh.
And she said to me, she was like, she actually said to me, she was like, I'm so happy I'm here to watch this, because she was like, I was worried no one was going to win an Olympic gold medal while I'm still here. And she's like, I'm so, so happy that I've got to watch Paris and see all the Olympians come back, because she was waiting for this moment as well. She's been trying to inspire people into sport in Northern Ireland for this moment. And it's cool that I got to share that with her. But at that day at the homecoming, she came to me, and I've spent my whole life as this mythical creature, just like, she's just up in the sky. I never thought I'd touch her. Do you know what I mean? She's just like up there somewhere.
That's so beautiful. That's such an amazing moment to be able to like share that with the person that you've emulated. Essentially, it's
just someone who I've literally always been like, I'm never going to touch her, but I can try, and I'll just try and see how far I get.
And with such a gap in time between the two achievements, you know, it is amazing to be able to share that moment. And you know, you've spoken about the gold medal that you won a little bit there, so I want to dive a little bit deeper into that.
Pardon the
you
pun.
won that gold medal. It happens a lot. I don't even think about it anymore. It literally goes straight over my head because it's just so locked in.
It's impossible to avoid as well.
I know, dive it.
Yeah, it's just, you know,
which means that our branding,
metaphor.
Yeah, our branding is perfect for that reason.
I'll stop with my dad jokes. Sorry.
No, keep them coming. Keep them coming.
Yeah, absolutely. We need someone to provide the entertainment. It's not going to be me and Freddie. Obviously, you won that gold. It was a remarkable race. I'll admit I haven't watched it, but I've seen the stories that you came back from, you know, a losing position. You won by, what was it, 0.15 of a second, which I imagine is pretty tight. Obviously, there's a lot of work that's gone into that to help you through that difficult moment, for sure. But very easily, everything could have been very different. And you might have just run out of space. And it might have been 0.15 the other way. And I think about this often because when I qualified for my first Olympics in Rio, I qualified by 6 points, which in diving is quite small. And it very easily could have been 6 points the other way. I've missed out on semi-finals and finals in competitions by 6 points the other way. I was like, thank God I got it right for that particular one. The fact that it was so close and everything could have been different and you might not have had that moment and all of these different things might not have happened. Is that something that you ever think about with it being so close? And how does that make you feel about yourself?
I just watched that Olympic final back and I'm like, if I watched that as a kid, I'd be like, I don't want that one. Like, that's not the one you want because it's so hard. Like, who wants to be in that position? And that's me, which I find hilarious in a way. Like me and like obviously Georgie, Lula and Lauren as well. But like, I'm really glad in a way we experienced that together because that experience in itself, that race was so unique in terms of what we experienced in that crew going down the track versus the perception on the outside and what people were commentating on. Like as you mentioned, we were losing until the last stroke of that race. And it's a 2,000 meter course. It's about 6 minutes. I think we did 6:16 that day. So 6 minutes, 16 second race. It's quite long. And we were losing the whole time. But in the boat, what was going on at that time for me personally was there was just this overriding sense of belief of, yeah, we're going to do this. Like, oh, they're ahead. Oh, I don't mind because we're going to go through them. Like, I know we are. And I looked back at the time when we won, I was like relieved. I looked at the court. I was, oh, that was a bit close. And then when I watched it back for the first time in the media, I couldn't believe it was us. I was like, that's not the race I was in. Like, that wasn't us. Like, we were further up than that. And I look back and the more I watch the race, every single time people often say to me, they're like, I still don't know how you won because you still think you're going to lose even though you know the result. And I think when I was in the boat at the time, like in the boat, I make the calls. I'm in the middle of the boat. So I look out and Lauren will feedback who's behind me. Okay, the Dutch are here, the Germans are here. But it was my call when we move, when we push, when we sprint. And then I'm also steering the boat with my foot at the same time. So there's a lot going on. And I remember 250 meters out, we were nowhere near the Dutch and they were still winning. And I, in my head was like, okay, do I call, like, do we try to do a crazy sprint because I know we're down still? Or do I make this call that we're in control? And I just was like, we're in control. We've got this, fucking go. And it was so, at that point, it was just, I remember having that split decision in my head of, do I back ourselves? Like, do I just go with it? Do I just back it to the hills, even though we're down and we're on our Olympic final and we really want to win? And I went with it. And I just remember having this confidence that we were going to do it because I knew my voice was going to be the main thing. If I wasn't confident, if I screamed and if I yelled and I was like, we got to do something and there was panic, we would have lost the race. So I just was like, we've got this. I just filled the crew full of confidence and we were just charging as the Dutch were starting to fade. And only on the last stroke, the actual last stroke on just the kind of the line, we just got it. And I could sense it. I could sense it was, I don't know how I knew, but I was like, Lauren felt the same. We just felt like we were slightly, just in terms of bodies, in front of them. And then when we saw on the board, I couldn't say, I just heard a yell behind me. And then it was like 1 GBR. And I was like, we've done it. Like, we've done it. And I knew it was close, but I didn't realize how close. And like I said, when I watched the race back, I'm like, would I have wanted that race to be me? Or would I have thought that race would have been me? No. But am I so proud of myself for the commitment to the belief and commitment to the plan? I didn't know that was in me at that time. Like at the Olympic final, to have the belief to keep in it and stick to the plan. You don't know until you're in it whether you're going to do it or not. And I think that was kind of one of the main things I took away. I was like, wow, pat on the back.
I mean, like, wow, again, what a story. Like, that was brilliant. I so enjoyed you taking us through that. And I heard Lauren say that she thinks that like each of you in that, the four of you each do your specific job in the boat better than anyone else in the world. It was like from her, like she was like so confident saying that. And I was like, wow, that's a really cool thing to say and an amazing thing to hear from your teammate. And so I wanted to I wanted to kind of ask about that and start to understand like, you know,
the dynamic.
exactly who's doing what and who's this great. But then from that story, it's like, wow, I mean, I kind of can understand what she means based on your account of that story.
Even just like, for example, the two, so I was in 2 seats. So it was Georgie, Lola, myself, Lauren, from stern to bow, front to back. And even in the stern, I've been in crews where like even 2 people in front of me will look out of the boat, and that can be 0.1 of a second. And it sounds so silly, but boats are actually really unstable. You're on moving water. And if someone looks out and like their head's out of the boat, that's impacting the rhythm or the race. And to the line, neither from what I could see, Georgie or Lola looked out of the boat once. And I was like, wow, the fact they believed in bow pair, like even myself and Lauren, enough to trust us to the line to get us over the line first. I think that shows how much the crew believed in each other. And I think to have that with other people and experience that together was incredible. And like GB have tried since Catherine Granger, like I think since 2004, they've been trying to win an Olympic gold medal in the women's quad. And there's been, I think, 2 or 3 silver medals. So then actually it ended up being the first gold medal in the men or women's quad ever for GB. So it'd been kind of like the boat that had never and we've been standing on the shoulders of the legacy before us, and it was an incredible legacy to be part of. And to actually get it across the line was really, really special in terms of history as well for the boat class and for what we did as a crew at that time.
When you were talking through that, I could hear how those extra reps of hard work that you put in from a kid all the way through, how they all come to fruition in that one particular moment. And that's, that creates the belief, that creates the confidence to say, I trust my gut, let's go, let's do it. That's all that hard work.
We had like a dynamic in our crew where, like Lauren said, like you're right, Freddie, where we all had different roles that made us stronger, but it was always very clear that we were not going to be a crew that we all did the same thing. We're actually very different in terms of as people, but we respect each other massively, and having just the respect to go, we're not going to change the way we are. We're not going to change who we are. We all work together in a way that created that belief. And I felt really strongly about that's how the best teams are made, in terms of bringing everyone's like strengths to the boat and using it like that, rather than trying to make everyone the same and mold to each other. I think that's where teams kind of go wrong. And I think that we showed that come the Olympic final.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I was going to ask, because obviously you've put in that hard work, you trust yourself, but you've got to trust 3 other people in the boat as well. And you've been with these people for a while. Obviously you've had a lot of success, but you've got your own identity, you've got your own approach, you've got your own way of doing things.